Welcome back to a new training video. This is my training from this past Tuesday and Thursday. Did not train on Wednesday because of the way I had to move things around. There was interviews on Wednesday, so I adjusted how my training was looking for that in order for me to not have to worry about training on that Wednesday. I had the thought of potentially doing some light stuff, but ended up not doing anything, and that's perfectly fine for me. There was also one of the days, I want to say it might have been Wednesday, but it could have been earlier in the week as well, where I had to get a grad school assignment done. It wasn't really like crazy, impossible, difficult to do, but it was just due randomly in the middle of the week, so I did have to account for that. And I think that now that I'm losing my train of thought, but it was due a couple days ago, and so that was one of the things I had to take care of. But on this day, I did the squats that I was a bit too fatigued the previous day to consider doing, and one of the reasons I was too fatigued was just the simple fact that I basically skipped an off day or skipped a late day, so it wasn't something it's something that I anticipated, I should say. But I was able to work up with triples here to 210 for two singles. I was thinking of potentially doing more, but I was too gassed, and then I dropped down to 150 for, I believe I did 5 sets of 5, so got quite a bit of volume. My quads were actually a little bit sore after this session, but I kind of liked how the session felt as far as being able to push myself to a heavier single, and then to drop down and get the sufficient amount of volume in, and then no belt with the drop sets and belts with the sets I was working up with. I also did some behind the neck jerks on this day and push presses from the blocks as well. The push presses went really well. Behind the neck jerks, it's hard to say they didn't go well. You do 5 sets of 3 push press. I wasn't necessarily expecting to have maximal overhead strength for the behind the neck jerks. I took a pretty big jump from 140 to 155 and missed that, and dropped back down to 150 and missed that as well. But then did another drop down set with 120 and did that for I think 6 reps, which is a nice little bit of volume to get, especially since I have the block set up for that. So I definitely want to continue to utilize that advantage of not having to re-rack it. And even for these push presses, having these crash pads for them and for the jerks as well just puts it at a perfect position. And it's kind of hard to tell from this angle, but I don't have to readjust my hands at all. I'm able to just grab a full grip, and so I don't have to squat down as much, and I don't have to adjust my hands once I have it on to my front rack. So it does make it a lot easier to do reps in for sure. So I definitely want to continue to utilize the crash pads. Plus it's probably protecting the wood a lot better than just not. But you'll also notice in the front I put the squat racks out, and so instead of trying to get the weights on with the crash pads there, because it's really difficult, because as you can see, like there, it sinks down a little bit, I would just walk it into the squat rack and then adjust the weights and then bring it back out. It does make the space really, really small as far as getting into where I'm standing right now and getting back out. There's just not a lot of space, and I'm a big man, so it's hard to fit around those crevices, but certainly it was tremendously easier to load up more weight than when I was trying to fight that before. So that's really getting me to fully commit to using the crash pads for everything. And I suppose it's also quieter and stuff. And we're also noticing too, potentially, if you're looking at the actual wood blocks, that they just don't shift around as much. So that was one thing I was noticing as well, is when I would just drop it onto the wood, I wasn't necessarily worried about the wood or whatever itself as much as it being, or the block sliding around a little bit, and that just being kind of obnoxious. One thing I do have to account for is the crash pads stick out a little bit from the side, so I do have to kind of account for that to make sure that the blocks and stuff are far enough out, but it's usually not too hard to get it to be in a good spot, since it's always going in the same spot for every session there. But like I said, the push presses went well. Behind that jerks, I was able to get some volume in. And in the next session that I had, which was Thursday, basically it was the Friday session I did a day early. I'd gone back and forth, but I decided just to do it on that Thursday because I was feeling good and feeling recovered after the rest day on Friday or on Wednesday. So I decided to just do that session kind of a day early, but like this week's just kind of weird with how I move things around. And basically this week also was the first week of the next 3-week block, so I did sets of 3 with the block snatches, and I did them with the 90 kilos, which felt really good. I was feeling like I was moving really well with those weights. and I believe I only did 4 sets now that I'm saying that out loud. On the 5th set, I believe, is when I jumped up to 100 and hit a really bad set. So I missed the first rep, the second rep was okay, and the third rep was I guess I would consider it a shed miss, even though I was at the gym. Basically, I didn't want to run it forward, and so basically made 1 of 3 on those, but then went up to 105 for a single, 110 for a single, and then the 115, which has been a short, and I posted on Instagram as well, the snatch plus overhead squat. I wasn't feeling super fast or like explosive, but I was just feeling like the movement was moving really well, which is a really nice thing. It's also interesting, so the next movement I did was the block, clean, and jerk. So I did 2+1 block, clean, and jerk, and those also felt, well, I should say they also felt good, but they have also felt better than in previous weeks. And I think me doing them consistently, and especially the cleans, obviously the jerks aren't going to make a difference whether I do them for the blocks or not, as far as like, a high block clean plus a jerk versus off the floor. But the high block cleans are slowly feeling better, and I'm feeling like I'm getting better at the technique, which will be interesting to see if it has carryover to the actual cleans that I do. Even if it doesn't necessarily, it's hard to really think how it wouldn't, because the fact that I'm just getting more volume in the clean in. And for me, if I'm catching, say, a 140 clean like I did in the session for a double, for me, that's a pretty high percentage of even a front squat. So catching it and that reflex in the bottom and standing up, I'm actually getting some decent strength work in, just because I'm just bad at front squats relative to what I can do for regular cleans. But I was able to get up to 130 for a 2+1. I tried to do 140 for a 2+1. The second clean I think was a bit too difficult, so then when I was at the top I was just didn't have enough energy for it. It's interesting because the weight itself, when I'm watching the video, like I'll jump it up usually pretty okay, or I'll stand it up, even if the second 140 like it crashed on me a bit, I'll still stand it up pretty easily. But I think just the stress of doing it from the blocks makes it feel a lot heavier and a lot more difficult. So it's a good kind of like simulation of doing actual like maximal weights. But yeah, this was the block snatch start here. Really like the blocks I have at the gym now. It's really nice for the high block work like I have here. I guess I potentially could use it for low block work as well, but I really like work above the knee, and it's been just kind of that consistent thing I have on, had been on Fridays. This week it was on that Thursday, but just really fun to do, frankly. And after doing the block, clean, and jerk, I tried to say block and box at the same time, but I guess it is a similar sounding word. Anywho, I did front squats, and I decided to do doubles, not for a lot of volume, but just did 70, 110, 140, 160, and was very happy that I was able to do the 160 for a double. I think on these sessions, if I'm able to add a front squat session like this in, where I'm doing it for multiple reps, just obviously more volume than what I was doing in the previous 3 weeks, but also like adding it on a session like this where I hadn't squatted on this particular day in a couple weeks, will be good as well. And also to keep the front squats from the day I'm doing back squats and allow that day to be pushed harder in back squats, and to have this day be the day where I push a little bit on front squats, so I'm not doing a front squat then a back squat, which isn't the worst thing, I don't think, but I'd rather push a little bit heavier on back squats and then have the day on this day do front squats, because that's kind of what I originally had planned. Just happened to be me wanting to do extra front squats on the other days. But the next session I'll have will probably be Saturday, and that will be the EMOM day. And I might just keep the routine like this, as far as like the EMOM being on Saturday, this block day being on Thursday, and then having some sort of smorgasbord of sessions, because that's really kind of, I suppose, the biggest wrench that I've thrown in for myself is having the block jerks, the behind the neck jerks, be one of the training sessions, or at least be in a training session. So I'll probably have like 4 harder training sessions. Have a day where I have the no foot snatches and the power cleans. I kind of liked having them separate to the push presses, but then having like the next day immediately being the push press and then the behind the neck jerks. I need to do some pulls. I keep forgetting to do them or not doing them. I think that's something that's going to be imperative for me to do, and it might be something to add in on like the no foot snatch day, since I'm not going to do the squats till the next day. Potentially I could do the pulls the day before, but that's one thing that, even though I love pulls, if I have all the blocks set up at the house, I really don't have a lot of motivation to put all of the blocks away to do more pulls, or to do pulls on that particular session, which is more of me just being lazy, I suppose. But I think if there's anything I don't do as much that's going to be perfectly fine for me, is pulls. If I am lazy on anything, it should be those. But I do want to keep that in mind to make sure I'm still hitting snatch pulls, I would say twice, and then clean pulls once. I think me doing anything more is possible, but probably not the most beneficial thing. Yeah, I also has been nice too is my knee. I had a bit of a little nagging thing that wasn't really major. Obviously, I was still training pretty well, but that has mostly gone away. I still have the normal, weightlifter like quad tendon soreness, or need to warm up before training sessions. But for a little bit, my right knee was a little bit stinky, but now it's less stinky, so it's good. But yeah, been doing the ab wheel a little bit. I think I talked about that in the last video as well. Because I trained at the house a lot this week, I didn't have as much time to do the accessory work that I've been doing at the gym with the back extensions and the leg extensions type stuff. But that was just mostly just because of the convenience of being at the house, and just from the nature of the training sessions. Obviously, like doing overhead stuff from the blocks is going to be easier with home field advantage. But I believe, no, it was Monday when I did that session. I think that's when I did my grad school work. So I think that's one of the reasons. Now it's all coming back together. So Monday, part of me was like wanting to do squats on that day or to do it on the next day. And the big thing that got me to decide whether to push it the next day or to do it on that day, same with the push presses, was the fact that I wanted to get my grad school assignment done, which ironically wasn't due until the 19th. And so I believe was Monday the 18th. Monday was the 17th. Okay, so it was due Wednesday. And because it's Arkansas time zone, so the central time zone, it's weird where it will say it's still due on the 20th technically, but it's like 1 a.m. on the 20th. So it's basically the 19th at midnight for me, or at least for my purposes. And so I was just I kept thinking about the assignment and was, wanting to get it done. So I ended up doing that on Monday, and then I might have finished it on Tuesday, but I basically had it done Monday, just so I could have it all turned in and be done with, which has all been going well. It all been going, I got that grade back, and that was a good grade. And then the other assignment that I'd stressed myself out in my conducting research class, I got all the points for that. So I was like stressing myself out more than I need to for that. So still more work to do for those, but definitely, everything's moving in the good direction for those, and the summer will be nice, and then I'll be done. And I think the biggest thing is not even so much the time from the grad classes that I'll have back, because it wasn't like I'm spending an exorbitant amount of time doing all the work for them. I think it's a pretty reasonable amount of stuff that I have to do for them. But the biggest thing is the moolah, all the money that I will be not having to spend on grad school classes. I actually think the next year for taxes, I'll get a nice little extra bit of refund as well from still doing college classes or grad school classes through in the summer and the spring. So that will be nice as well. But then I'll truly be able to save up a lot, start to work off getting my house paid down as quick as I can, and then I can start looking at buying a car. And financially, things are, I would say, looking up, but they've never really looked down for me, thankfully. And once I have that all done, then it's really just saving and getting the house paid off. And once the house is paid off, I'll truly have like unlimited funds. And I suppose that's the benefit of not having a significant other or children and stuff, is that as long as I'm not a total buffoon, then I'll be able to quickly save up money. And then I don't even say necessarily even be rich, but I'll have enough money to where I don't really think about if I want to spend some, buy something stupid or whatever. But I'm kind of already in that state, but I try to save as much as I can just so I have as much of a buffer if my leg falls off or whoever, or whatever else happens. But anywho, that's it for this one. If you made it to this point, I appreciate it. I'll talk to you all in the next one. Peace.